In the dead of night, when the moon is high and ill winds blow, and the banshees cry and the moonlight casts an unearthly glow, arise, my love, with tales of woe.
Good evening. It is 12 midnight, the paranormal hour. Welcome to Ghost. I'm your host, Chief Lawson. Ghost is a podcast to discuss all paranormal and parapsychology subjects. You can find Ghost on all major formats, so tell your friends, tell your family. Come listen to Ghost. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is the midnight hour, and tonight we have a special arrangement for you. We did a podcast, actually a video cast, with a group called Canned Air, and fantastic guys. The guys were fantastic. Hopefully next year we can do an investigation together, maybe do something online for both us and them. So listeners, I'm going to play the interview for you for this month's segment. I also want to note that because of busyness and everything going on and closing out the October month, we will not be having a ghost story of the day. So just heads up on that. This is a little lengthy, but I think you'll enjoy it. I think it's about 45 minutes or so. It's not bad. But I really enjoyed the time I got to spend with these guys, and I mean, they were fantastic. They do a lot of pop culture things, and they do special segments on Halloween. I was one of, I believe, 4 people interviewed. So hopefully you'll enjoy this. We're looking very forward to it. So, and with that, here we go.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to part 2 of the Canned Air Halloween Special 2025. I am Jeremy Colley.
I'm Jack Doherty.
And I'm Randy Hardenbrook.
And we're continuing our Halloween celebration by sitting down with the leader of another paranormal group out of Indiana, Spirit Paranormal. We welcome Chris Chief Lawson. Chief being his nickname, as he's a retired fire chief, which, damn, that's quite a credit. You know, that cannot be an easy job. You know what I mean?
No, not at all. Yeah.
Not at all. So our hat goes off to you, sir, for doing that. I guess I should have said that when we were actually talking to him. But I'm sure he's watching this, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, we welcome him on not only to talk about, Spirit Paranormal, what they do, what they're about, their team. I was really impressed with their setup. You know, it's not just, a bunch of common interest people in this group. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but in this group, it seemed like every person was there for a reason. Everybody had a special talent. They led to the paranormal research here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it sounds like it's not an easy group that you can just walk into either. So
no, it's not, which is a good thing. You know, you don't want just a bunch of wannabes, I guess, hanging around, right?
Big phonies. No.
We got an invite though, not to be in the group, but to come hang out. So may just have to do that. So I'm very excited to show you guys that conversation. Again, not only telling us about the team, but some of their experiences they've had. And he also sent some EVPs and some video content that they've captured. So I've only seen a few of the things thus far, but I always love when we get the actual recordings or videos of stories people are talking about on the show. We had that last year in part 3 when they were talking about what was the Bobby Mackey's
yes,
bar. I think they sent along some EVPs that were pretty creepy. So I love getting that stuff. Chief sent some of that stuff over. Very excited to show that to you guys. But before we cut you over to Chief's story, we're going to bring in another guest really quick. Good friend of the show, been a patron of the show for a long time. Chelsea Richardson stops by. She actually, last Halloween, guys, said she had this story, but by the time she was telling us, we had everything recorded up. I think I was halfway through editing, and I'm like, hell no, I'm not starting again. We'll do it next Halloween. And here we are. We got it set up and got it recorded. And her story is just in a nutshell. All I'm going to say is when I guess it's about family members coming. Hi, I'm getting tongue tied. Jack, help me here.
Yeah, family members coming by to say hi or let you know they're still watching, maybe.
Checking in on you.
Yeah.
Part of it sounds scary, but another part sounds pretty comforting. To see an apparition of somebody would be horrifying, but if it's somebody you know, somebody you loved, coming from the afterlife, how horrified would you be, actually,
Right.
I don't know. I hope to experience that someday, honestly. But who knows if I ever will. But before we cut it over...
I'd come by to say hi.
What's that?
I'd come by to say hi.
Just make sure I'm not in the bedroom or bathroom when you're doing that, okay?
Right.
That could get awkward. Just any other
What
time.
are you doing in there?
Jeremy's sitting on the can, and Jack comes in. Would you like something to read?
Yeah, he's trying to put the shampoo bottle in my hand.
Yeah.
Any other time, though, is just fine. Nice. Anyway, let's cut it over to our next guest that we are already set up. Chris Chief Lawson of Spirit Paranormal. I'm going to put a link to the website below. And also, he has the Ghost to Ghost podcast, which I'm pretty sure he does with his wife and some members of his team, where they have people come on to talk about all things regarding like parapsychology and the paranormal, as you can imagine. But I will once again put all the links below to check out everything he's talking about. And he'll also mention that on the website, there is a calendar that talks about all the places they're going to be, because, he's also doing all these lectures on the paranormal and parapsychology. What was the convention that happens up at Mansfield, Randy, that he's going to be attending?
Parapsychon's the one at Mansfield, and I think there's a few more before that. But I think he's got like a calendar, maybe?
Yes, that's what I was getting at. There's a calendar of all the events on the website that tell you exactly where he's going to be. We had talked about actually going up to the Mansfield Parapsychon, I think I said that right, to not only see him, but check out the prison again, because it's a freaky place if you've never been. But anyway, without any further ado, let's cut it over to Chief Lawson. And now joining us, Chris Chief Lawson. Chris, thank you so much for taking time to be a part of our Halloween episode.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate the invite.
Is it okay if we call you Chief? I know that's the moniker
fine.
you typically go by. I just wanted to make sure before we assume. I didn't know if you had to be friends, like in the end,
No. I consider ourselves friends, but either way, you can still call me Chief. Thank you.
Fantastic. I certainly will then. And very excited to have you here, Chief. Very excited to hear about some of the experiences you've had during your years of, paranormal investigation and research, et cetera. But before we do that, I'd like to get to know you a little bit better and everything, you've been doing for the past, it looks like damn near 25 years, if not more. First, you're the founder and leader of Spirit Paranormal Indiana, which Spirit being the acronym for Special Paranormal Investigation and Research Indiana Team, which was started in 2000. Is that accurate?
Actually started in 99, but we went live, you might say, in 2000. So that's correct, yes.
So this is the 25th anniversary. Congratulations.
Been around a while.
I would say. So can you tell us and the listeners a little bit about Spirit Paranormal Indiana?
Well, we operate within the state of Indiana, and occasionally we'll go outside the borders a little bit. We do have other teams in other states we're friends with, and if we get a case that's just too far off, we'll refer it. We do private cases, we do public cases, whatever we get a call to do. We say we investigate parapsychology, not paranormal necessarily. And I always tell people when we teach a class, we always refer, there's two differences there. And parapsychology is the actual science of the field. Paranormal is an umbrella term. It covers not only paranormal activity or ghosts, but it covers cryptozoology, ufology. It covers everything is included in there. And even though that's not necessarily correct terminology, every team says we're a paranormal team. It's a catchphrase now. And most people don't think much about it. Although we don't do cryptozoology, we don't do ufology. We strictly stick to ghost, and that's all that we do. We're trying to prove the existence of life after death and forward that field. We use a methodology of debunking, and we use a scientific method. So in other words, our methodology is to try to disprove anything we can that is not paranormal. And really what that comes back to being is a thing that it comes from Sherlock Holmes. It says that once you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains, no matter how improbable, must be the truth. So we
Hmm.
figure anything that remains must be paranormal. So once we eliminate all that, it makes a very big difference. And there are cases where we find out there really isn't a haunting going on. It can be explained. There's times where there is hauntings going on. So, we use both of those fields. But if we get something in that's cryptozoology, Bigfoot sighting, we give it to the BFRO. If we get a UFO sighting, we refer that to MUFON. Those are the experts in that field. We are not. And so we strictly stick in our field. We've been investigating the areas for over 25 years. And some of our people, I know I've been really interested in parapsychology for more than 30 years. My team is 7 people. I have some of the most fantastic team members in the world. I tell you what, I can't be more proud of my group. And what we do is not possible without every member of the group. My chief of staff, Andrew Brooks. I have my Jennifer Verne, my wife, Heather Lawson, Tim Webb. I have Eric Knight and Sierra Medley. I have 7 members in total. And then we also have 3 subject matter experts. They don't actually investigate with the team. They're resources we use. One of them is the Reverend Michelle, and she helps us out clergy wise.
Oh,
Occasionally,
wow.
we find situations where maybe someone's having a psychological issue, and it's not necessary parapsychology. So she does counseling. She helps do cleansings of spaces. We have another gentleman named Kevin Scott, who he's a brother Shriner. Matter of fact, right now he's probably drunk as can be in New Orleans because he's down there for a convention. And by this hour, he's probably good and cooked. But anyway,
I
he's
would
our
be.
weather guy. Yeah, I would be too if I was there. So, he actually does all of our weather and our space weather, and he's our emergency dispatch during investigation. If something goes wrong, we can reach out to him and he can help coordinate, kind of like a dispatcher on the fire department. Our last guy we call Son of Sid. His identity we keep confidential at his request. He is an electric engineer and he designs equipment for us. And we
Oh,
give him,
nice.
yeah, it's nice to have that. Let me tell you what. And we've actually got some really nice things. The latest has been a EMF activated music box, and he's
Okay.
made several of them. So we'll come to him and give him some sort of idea what we want, and then give him a little time, and he'll come back with something very nice that'll work out quite well. Um,
Wow.
so, we have a good sized crew. We are still looking for a new lawyer, and we're looking, not that we got rid of the old one, but he's too busy these days, and we don't pay, so they don't do a lot of freebies for long. The other thing we're looking for is a real estate agent. We use those to research properties and assist our research manager. So, but no, we operate the team. We also operate the podcast, Ghost to Ghost, and we are been on air since 2022. And we're eventually wanting to go the way you guys do to video casting. We're not quite there yet, but we're getting there. And then we have the Paranormal University Master Class that started in 2011. And that's actually a parapsychology level class. It runs about 10 hours, about 6 to 7 a classroom. And then we actually take them on an investigation, let them use equipment. So for the folks out there that watch Ghost Hunters and, Kindred Spirits, they can come out and get to play with some of the equipment and see how we're very small classes. We keep them 6 to 8 people so we can work on with them one-on-one. We usually go to some place that's known active, and they pay a fee, and that covers their admission into that location as well as the class. And of course, we use that to raise money and for gear and equipment. So we keep both of those active, and then of course we have a social media presence on Facebook and Instagram. So.
Wow.
And then I'm an author. I'm working on my second book right now, and everybody would like me to get it done a bit faster than I am. I'm working on it.
They're
Things
not the
happen.
ones slaving on it, right?
Exactly. They are not. And it's called Haunted History and Ghost Tales of Indiana. And I've actually started a third one. I started collecting information. Everybody wanted me to write a book on bartending with a paranormal flair. So it's called Bartending for the
Ooh.
Dead. That's my
Ooh.
rough name right now. So it's set to the side. And so, but anyway, that's going to be for after I get the actual second book accomplished. So, But yeah, so we keep a little busy around here.
I would say so. Where can people get a copy of the first book?
It is no longer in print, and I am trying to get it reprinted. It went out of print, and it was called Strange Shelby County. And long story, too long to go into for the podcast, but it
Sure.
is no longer in print at this point. So I've got several people wanting to buy the rights to it, and I'm trying to get that back in circulation. So when I do, I'll put that on Facebook, and it'll be known and guaranteed. When I get the second one done, I'll be peddling that on Facebook at any place we can find. So
Sure.
Sounds good.
Let us know.
Yes, certainly.
Let
We'll
us
send
know.
you
Maybe
some
we can do
signed
this
copies.
again. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. Anytime you guys want, we'd be more than happy to be on the show.
Awesome, man. And I really appreciate here. I'm sorry, Randy. Go ahead. You go.
After
I've
you,
been
man.
talking. No, I've been talking. You go ahead, buddy.
I was going to say, before we get into kind of your personal experiences and stuff, I want to kind of circle back around to say, talk about, your disproving, because I don't know that a lot of our listeners might understand that process. As far as potentially like saying if there's like a carbon monoxide leak or something that's causing, hallucinations or something like that.
Sure. And the one thing I would say is we have a healthy skepticism. Now, that doesn't mean we're all non-believers. I do have a few skeptics in the group. My chief of staff, Andrew Brooks, loves to use the term, I'm looking for the blinding light of the obvious. And, he's yet to find it to his degree. So I think you have to have skeptics on the group to keep that subjective sort of judgment when you're especially reviewing data and evidence. But what we do is we go in and we look at a claim. Let's say it's a noise, someone going up and down the steps. We look to see if the steps are loose, if there's something else that could be causing it. Maybe temperature changes in the room are causing the wood to swell or to contract, and it causes sounds. And we try to disprove the claim. Now, if we can't, then we start going, okay, this is something that was definitely paranormal or parapsychology related. So we're going to start trying to figure out what's going on. And we don't walk in and just say, okay, everything is disproved until we can prove differently. That's not the case. But we definitely we take an open ear, and believe me, we have an 800. Well, we have a 24-hour line. It's not 800, but it's 24-hour hotline. And let me tell you what, you haven't lived till you ran a 24-hour hotline. And oh yeah, and the funnest calls you get on there, and I'll tell you about those a bit later. We've had a few really interesting ones, and we've had some really serious ones, and we even had a couple of times where one in particular, we talked a guy out of suicide till we gave him help.
Wow.
And so he called in, and so that happens. I mean, you get a lot of real life, and we don't put that kind of thing on Facebook. We don't talk about those are private. I mean, our private cases, when someone calls us, that doesn't reach Facebook or social media. Those are cases in the file, and I'm going to talk about a couple tonight, but I will do them generically. And but one other thing we try to do in our business is keep a little bit of humor into it. We all want to enjoy. We are really tight people. We always say that, when you're on our team, you're part family, and that's a big thing. And so, we are all very close, and we help each other out. So, when we get together, we want to make sure that we do everything we can to keep up camaraderie, and that, that keeps your team going.
Mm-hmm.
If you get to the point that all you're having is business meetings and a case every 3 months, you're going to have problems. And you're going to lose people. Also, it's hard to get in our group. If you actually, we have a video on our website. If you go and look at that of becoming a member, it takes on average it's a 3-step process of vetting. And if you make it through all 3 steps, then at that point you have a 18-hour training course that's done in 2 days, and it's kind of like a paranormal boot camp. And we train you as best we can before we turn you loose. Before you ever walk out in an investigation, you have to go through some hoops and some continuing education before we put you out with the public. So,
Awesome.
yeah. So we keep our members. We recently lost 2, and we just brought 2 on because 2 of them moved to Canada due to their business. And that happens from time to time. Unfortunately, the worst thing that can happen to your leisure time or your drinking time is to have a job. And so, it is what it is. But we have brought 2 new people on recently. So, but no, that's kind of our methodology is to go in and try to explain to people what really is parapsychology related and what is not, so they understand that. not every knock, every bang, every odd thing is paranormal. And a lot of people get in that phase, and we don't want people to understand that, that a lot of things, houses are old. There's a theory called new house. And basically it just says anytime you do construction, it'll either increase, or what's called construction theory as well. But anyway, it'll either increase or decrease activity. Well, the other thing is new house, if you move in, that new house theory is that there's going to be noises you're not familiar with.
Right.
And we first bought this one last year. I swore up and down. I kept hearing somebody in the garage. Turned out it was the water heater. Every time it came on, it made a sound. And how I debunked it, I had to sit down here with a small glass of scotch, obviously. And then, I just waited for the sound to happen again. And, those things are, and that's kind without the scotch. That's kind of how we do our investigation. We'll monitor it. We'll try to get it to, if we figure out what it could be, we'll use the scientific method to try to recreate it to get it to make that noise or do that, whatever it was doing again, so we can prove that's what it is.
Gotcha.
Wow. All right. So that,
Sorry.
no, you're fine. I mean, I love hearing all this. I think we both do, just because that means the stories you're about. I mean, if you guys are eager to find an explanation, eager to debunk, not just assume, then the stories you're about to tell, I would have to imagine, are pretty damn good. So why don't you kick us off? Why don't you tell us one of your most incredible
I
experiences?
kind of made some notes, and I picked out about 4 or 5. One of them happened several years ago. I must say it's probably 3. And the case was in southern Indiana. And a lady called me. She was an older lady, reminded me of my grandmother in some ways. And she lived in a retirement community. And she said, I can't sleep in my bedroom. Something keeps smothering me every time I'm in my bedroom. And it's trying to kill me. And okay. And so I told her, I said, well, we have this policy, and I'll explain where that came from in one of my next stories. But I told her, I said, if you rent, or you live in this case, a retirement community, I need the property manager's permission, because there's nothing that upsets the regular residents is when you roll either a Terminex truck in, or where you roll in a bunch of paranormal investigators, because immediately everybody panics. So I told myself, I knew that was going to be the end of the call. I mean, they don't usually go along. Next thing I know, this guy calls me. He's the manager of the complex, the property manager. And he says, look, these old people are driving me nuts. He said, they all see this ghost. You got to come down here. You've got my permission. What do you need from me? I'll make this happen. And I thought, wow, okay. So, we said, no problem. I said, that's all I needed. I'll send you a contract to sign. And he did. And so we contacted our client back and said, okay, tell us all you know about your past or anything could be creating this. Give us a basic. And so about 2 days before we went down, all we knew was she couldn't sleep in the bedroom, and something, she said, it felt like someone was putting a pillow over her face and smothering her, although the pillow was never actually physically over her face. About 2 days beforehand, she did the Paul Harvey thing on me. She says, well, let me tell you the rest of the story. And I thought, oh, that's good, because that's always great 2 days before you leave. And she says, well, I'd ask her about her ex-husband. She said, oh, he died back in the 90s. And I said, okay. I said, so anyway, she told me, she said, well, that ex-husband I was telling you about. I said, yes. She says, well, there's a little bit more to that story. I go, okay. She says, he come in, he was a drunkard. He come in one night and he urinated all over the bed, and he cussed me out and he passed out. And she said he urinated on the pillow, my pillow. So I took it and tried to kill him by smothering him. I thought, oh, good. I said, did you kill him? She goes, oh, no, he survived. I go, well, that's good for us and you. And I didn't want to have to deal with the murder case. And she says, but, she says, this is what happened. And I said, okay. So we came down there, and it was an ungodly hot, August. I think it was in August. It was an ungodly hot, muggy night. And this is a tiny little place. And we get down there and almost have a welcoming committee of older people, all retired people in this community that was glad to see us. We roll up, and we don't roll up in a hearse lights. We come down very discreetly. We've got magnetic signs. We save those for PR events, Paracons, that kind of thing. We come down discreetly. And so we get out, and it's tiny. I'm not kidding you. It has a living room, kitchen combination with 1 bedroom and a bathroom. That's all she has. So we began investigating, and we really aren't coming up with anything. We use all of our toys in our toy box. We really can't get anything. We can't. There's nothing we can feel going on. And so she was very upset. She was in tears. She says, I can't sleep in my bedroom. I haven't been able to sleep there for 2 years. And she says, can you cleanse the space? Well, we don't do that. We generally do not do that. And it's very rare. But I agreed to do it. And my tech manager, Tim Webb, said, I'll help you. And I go through and without getting into long details about the cleansing process, we cleansed it totally out. And we got done and went out to the car and was putting things away. And he looked at me and he says, do you think we got rid of what's in there? And I said, I'll let you know in about 2 days. And I said, so afterwards, 2 days later, I called the client. I said, how's it going? She says, I've been sleeping in the bedroom perfectly fine ever since. And Tim says, wow. And I said, well, let me tell you, I said, I don't know if we got rid of anything. I don't know there was anything there, but she thought we got rid of something. As long as she thought we got rid of something, she's sleeping in the bedroom. We did what we were supposed to do. We helped her out. So I don't know if there was a ghost there. We went through all of our data. We never found a thing. But the simple act of cleansing the space was enough to allow her to sleep in her bedroom. And to the best of my knowledge, she's still sleeping in her bedroom. I mean, I haven't heard a thing from her. I told her she's more welcome to call us if anything comes up. And we were kind of grimacing going down there because their complex is surrounded by the largest cemetery in that town.
Oh,
Oh, wow.
Look at that going, they could be, these spirits, if they're here, they could be from anywhere. But actually, that's what it turned out to be. And so, it was rather fulfilling at the end of the day because, like I said, she's sleeping in her bedroom and, we're walking away the heroes,
sure.
whether we did something or not, we did it in her mind and she's good with it. So that's sometimes what a paranormal or a parapsychology investigator's world is. Another time, and for instance, we had a call come in on a hotline, and the gentleman told me he had vampire ghosts. Now, I got to admit, that's a new one. I had not heard that term. Yeah, me neither. And I asked him, I said, exactly what is a vampire ghost? He said, well, they're ghosts that look like vampires. And I said, have you been bit? And he says, no, no, no. I said, well, that's good. And so the more I talked to the guy, I told him at first, he seemed very grounded. And I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. And I gave him instructions about going down, purchasing salt lamps and putting a few in the house. I said, see if that helps, see if that takes away some of the negative energy. And I said, maybe that's, well, the more we got into this case, 6 phone calls later throughout maybe a week's time, we started talking about his medication. And being a medic, I asked him what he was on. Well, I found out he was on some medication that conflicted with each other, and he got it from the VA. Well, and my wife was first one picked up on that, being a veteran, and she said, oh my God, he's gotten mixed up on the meds. So I got him to have his daughter call me, and I said, look, I think this is what's going on. About a week later, he called me, said, I want you to know the vampire ghosts are gone. My meds have been corrected, and you probably won't be hearing from me again. I said, oh, that's okay. I said, I'm glad it worked out. So, there's 2 cases where, we were able to do quite a bit for somebody. And,
Sure.
so sometimes that works out that way. Now, one of the cases we had was Kessler Boulevard case, we call it. It's up off of Kessler Boulevard in Indianapolis. And I don't mind saying that because it's a huge street and it runs, runs quite a ways. It's hard to narrow down where that is on Kessler.
Sure.
But anyway, we got it, and it actually was off of there. It was in a fairly new neighborhood. We had 2 vets call us, and they said, then they were active. They were reservists, full-time reservists. One was Navy, one was Army. And they said, our children are seeing children spirits. And they started telling me about all these things. And they're very upset because it's their kids, obviously. And we try to respond as quick as we can when it involves children. So we came out to the house and they told us what was going on. And the wife said, well, my mother's ashes are here. Would that have something to do with it? I said, maybe, maybe not. It's half and half. And so we did an investigation. My research manager had pulled all the research she had. And we asked what the little girl looked like. And what we normally do is give the kids a piece of paper and coloring crayons and ask her to draw. Everyone draws this little blonde girl. And we ask them about, only 2 of them were old enough to communicate, halfway intelligibly enough we could use any of the data from it.
Right.
And they,
so these are really young kids.
Yeah, like we're talking, I think 6 or 8 at that time. One was 6 or 7, one was like 8 or 9. So they talk about this little blonde girl. Well, it turns out through our research, a little girl in the addition 10 years prior was killed 3 houses down, and she was hit on her bicycle and killed, and she matched the description perfectly. We looked at the photograph, and so we printed the photograph out, and so we came back and we did our investigation, and we had a couple of REM pods upstairs and a teddy bear, and our teddy bear activated off EMF. We call him Ted the bear after the movie, but anyway, we put Ted out, and as we were talking, we told this little girl she could grab a hold of the bear. And through K2 sessions, we found out that she moves up and down between 2 or 3 houses. So she goes all up and down that area, but she liked the children and she was probably no threat to them. And so, she didn't give us any indication of being a false lead into something more malicious. It just seemed like a child spirit who wanted to hang out with the rest of the kids. And so once we found it out, we printed the picture out and we met with the parents for the reveal. And I told the kids, I says, this is the little girl you saw. And I held the photo up and they go, yeah, that's her. That's her. And so we explained when the children left the room what the situation was. We said, look, when they get older, she'll go away because they'll be too old for her. I said, she's not harmful. She's not going to hurt them, and she'd never done anything to make them think that. But we told her, we said, when they get to be 12, 13, 14, that'll all go by the wayside. You may have to wait a couple of years, but it'll fade away. And it did, as far as I know. We never got a call back on the case. So,
Wow.
couple, 2 or 3 more real quickly here. Cumberland investigation. And this was altering to us. We were in Cumberland, Indiana, and we got a call. And this has been about, I'm going to say 15 years ago. And it was in an apartment complex. I think at one time may have been like a motel. It had doors opened out. There's 2 floors. And we got a call by a young couple. Her husband had just came out of the service and they were living there and they thought they had a ghost in the apartment. So we came out and we did the investigation. And I told you guys earlier, we always like to have a little fun. And actually, I very rarely experience getting to see a spirit or feel a spirit. This one time in life, this shadow figure jumped right out in front of me. And it's funny, the thoughts and words that come to your mouth when that happens. And I yelled, oh, holy Jesus, roll out. Well, my tech manager for the next 4 years, that was his ringtone for me on his phone. And he thought that was grand. And I mean, these things happen. I mean, it comes with the program, but they thought, they don't get one on me very often. When they do, they cherish it. And but we ended up investigating there, and we left, and we said, okay, here's the deal. It's going to take, there's nothing harmful here. So it usually takes about a week to go through all the data, and then we'll get back with you. We went home. Now, bear in mind, we usually close out about 4 o'clock if it's not an overnight investigation. I got home, got in bed. At 7 o'clock, my phone rings. I've been in bed a couple hours. I answer the phone, and it's some lady from the apartment complex, the property manager. She's just absolutely upset to no end. You came in here without our permission. I said, oh, ma'am. I said, we have permission of the tenants, which you rent to, and they're allowed to give permission. It's their property while they're leasing it. She says, well, I want you to know they're here in the office and they want to break their lease because they said, you said this place is haunted. I said, that's not what I said. I said, we haven't even went through the data yet. I said, I've had 2 hours sleep. I haven't even looked at anything yet. I said, we don't know that it's the case. And they said, well, they're trying to get out of their lease. And they've told everybody in the apartment building that the place is haunted. And she said, I've had 9 people in my office. And I said, look, I'm terribly sorry for your problem, for your trouble. And I said, we didn't mean to cause that. But I said, no, that's not what we said. You can, if you want us to come out and talk to your apartment building, we'll come out and talk to the residents and explain to them that, we have no proof it's haunted at this time. I said, but if I review the evidence and something shows up, I'm obligated to tell them the truth. I mean, we found something and they'll have to make the decision. She said, I just don't want you on the property, period. So we went to our legal counsel, and the great thing about being a Freemason is I got a few buddies that are attorneys, and that's when we developed our first rule. We have a contract, and if you are not the property owner, you rent. Either the property owner or the property manager has to give approval and sign a contract along with the client signing a contract that gives us permission to come and investigate. And that contract's been specifically worded out so that cuts down on our liability. Now, we do have insurance. As a matter of fact, we're changing insurance right now. It's always hard to explain to someone you want to insure your paranormal investigations. There's nothing funner than making that call to an insurance agent.
Sure.
Waiting for the first one to go, are you drinking? Well, I will be later. But yeah, Anyway, but yeah, I mean, we started using contracts. That changed the world for us. And then we found out that, yeah, there was a few things there, but those people were gone and we closed the case for all the benefit of all, involved. So 2 more fast ones. We got the time.
Sure.
One that we really helped out with, and this has probably been at least 15 years ago. I had a lady call me from Southern Indiana, and she was blind. She lived in a apartment. And she says, I'm hearing this ghost. And she says, I'm hearing noises, and they're not necessarily voices, but they're sometimes knocks and things. And she says, it keeps moving things around my apartment. And she said, I know that sounds crazy from a blind lady, but she says, I can tell when things have been moved and when they're not. And she says, I came in to find out they have moved a bunch of things. And so we talked about this and talked about it. And I said, well, I can come down, but you'll have to get the property owner to go along with it. And she says, well, I don't think they will. And she says, but what would you suggest otherwise? I said, well, can you buy a small nanny cam? If you can, set it up in your apartment. Let's just see what we catch. And I got her dad called me, and he was agreeing to help set this up. And we worked through them getting it set up. And we went down and helped him get it in position. Turned out what was happening wasn't paranormal. The maintenance guy was sneaking in. He was going through her underwear drawer. He was going through
What
different.
the?
So yeah, yes,
That's almost just as creepy, though.
Oh yeah, so we nailed him, and I looked over and I said, "Well, and the sheriff looked at me that was in the area and says, "I want to thank you guys because we won't be doing it on the news." He said, "But I want to thank you." I said, "That's okay." So,
Wow.
we didn't find a ghost; we found a pervert. So anyway,
That's
these
way
things.
scarier.
Oh yeah, and so the best stories of recent. We just recently came back from the Randolph Asylum, Winchester, Indiana. And we took our two new members, Sarah Medley and Eric Knight. Now, Eric came from Kansas City, and he was a kind of like a paranormal tour guide on a distillery or brewery out there until it closed down, or winery, I think it was. So he had some limited experience before he came to us. Sierra was a groupie. She followed me through lectures for 2 years, and the poor kid showed up and sat through the same damn lecture, which hell, my wife has to because I married her. But I didn't know anybody else that would ever sit through the same lecture twice. I'll tell you that. But even my college students wouldn't back in the day, and but she enjoyed it, and she finally came to me and said, "Hey, I want to be a part of this team," and she made it through the vetting process, and she's one of our newest members. So we baptized him in hell immediately. It just worked out that way. The first thing we took him on was Waverly Hills. And, she didn't get a simple case of somewhere around. No, we threw her right into an insane asylum. And that wasn't good enough. So the next one was Randolph Asylum. So, she got hit twice. But
Wow.
Randolph was, we stayed all night and we slept there. So anyway, there was a ton of activity, and actually, the podcast for Ghost to Ghost at the 30th of October for our October edition will be on Randolph, and it will have some visual and audio both. So if they go to YouTube, they'll be able to find that. And I will tell everybody, if they're looking for our YouTube, there's some problems. The wonderful, great Art Bell, he had done some shows on the holidays called Ghost to Ghost, and they get confused with ours. So if you're looking for ours, go to our website, go to the social media tag, and click on the YouTube logo, and it will take you to our page, our channel page with all the videos. But
We'll also
anyway,
have links below too.
yeah. Oh, thank you so much. I
problem.
appreciate that. So we go down there, and some of the most active places are in the basement, the morgue. The morgue was a multi-use morgue before it became a sanitarium. They had some cholera patients there, and they were storing the bodies there. And when I say storing, they were stacking them like someone would stack blocks. So at one point, there was a pile of 40 or 50 bodies that were just seeping into this dirt floor.
Oh my
And they end up
God.
having. Oh yeah. Oh, it's I wouldn't recommend that to anybody starting out as their first investigation. It's a little rough because it is extraordinarily active, and it will scare the bejeebers out of you, guaranteed. And like I always tell people, there's two types of scared. They're scared where you go down and you pay $30, you get a T-shirt running through an animatronics haunted house, and then there's the kind of stuff you do with me, and those. I guarantee you'll forget that animatronics haunted house in a month. You won't forget this.
Yeah.
And it's just how it works in the field. And so anyway, we had a lot going on, and our tour guide, who was there to let us in and give us any history anyone wanted to know, his name was Ted. Fantastic guy, really neat. He told me, he said, now, the front of the building is the caretaker, superintendent's quarters. He said, the spirits don't come up here as long as you keep the doors shut, because in life, they weren't allowed to. The key word is keep the doors shut. And so anyway, that'll come in later in the program. But anyway, they divided in this particular establishment. The women were on one side, men on another side. There's two separate doors. So as long as you're up in the front section, there's a kitchen there. And I can't tell you what, these people are just the nicest. They provide you food preparation. And I had actually smoked a pork shoulder and made pulled pork barbecue. We had this giant pan. And so, yeah, I treat my people good. So we had a meal there.
Say so.
We tell our tour guide, pull up a chair, grab a bun, start making a sandwich. And so, we ate before we got there, I think about 8 o'clock that night. We ate before we started deploying equipment and getting started. It was extremely extreme. And actually, I don't know if I can play them on here. I'm not quite that skilled, but I do have a couple EVPs from our past. I didn't know if you guys wanted to hear them or not, but if I can play them.
If you could send them to them, we can cut them in.
Yeah, that would be if that's possible.
I got 2 video small clips that you would like. So 2 of them are for Randolph. You'll see a wheelchair in one of them. Yeah, go ahead if you want. Time market. This is Eric, Andrew, Heather, and Chief. We are in the electrotherapy room. If you'd like to talk to us, you'll notice we have several devices, one of which is, did you ring the bell? If that was you, can you ring the bell again for us? Very good. We get to the point, and this happens in a lot of investigations, the spirits will run out of energy, and they have to recharge. Now, they'll steal your battery energy and all that first, but once they've gone through that, that's it. And you might as well, go take a break, take a nap until things pick up. So about 3:30, 4 o'clock, things died down. So we decided to go ahead and go to sleep. The ladies in my group decided they didn't want to go upstairs to the beds. They would much rather we all sleep in the same room. So, and they had recliners. It's like a fireman's day room. It had all kinds of lazy boy recliners. So we all bring blankets as part of our gear. And so we decided we'd all sleep in the same room. We told Eric to go shut the basement door, going to the basement. And he was actually a little uneasy about going by himself just to shut the door. That's how active the night had been. And so we thought we shut the door on the main level to the women's side. So we went to bed about 5-ish. It's still dark, so about 5-ish, 5:30-ish. Jennifer wakes me, and one of the great things that my wife will tell you, and I can tell you from the military, is you learn to sleep anywhere at any time. So she wakes me up and says, "You hear that?" And you can hear people walking up and down the stairs and across the floors.
Oh,
and man. I said, active, they're getting their energy back. I said, we'll see what happens. And we dozed a little bit. They kept moving. They slammed a couple of doors. And then all of a sudden, Sierra was getting a little more unnerved. One of our two-way radios squelched. And what happens is if you grab, I'm sure you guys are familiar with radios, but if you grab the side of it, you can squelch it, which opens up the channel so you can hear more of the frequencies. They usually automatically squelch down to eliminate the static and all that. But if you hit the button, you get all of it. And it had like a 3-second burst. And she goes, "What was that?" And I go, "That was one of the radios." And she says, "Did we leave a radio outside?" I go, "No, they're in here. That means something walked in here and squelched the radio." I really didn't realize what that would do to her. Yeah, because I was going right back to sleep. And, I said, "Don't worry about it. It's fine."
Good night.
And I dozed back off. She says, "You sure?" I go, "Positive." And, and so later on, we wake up probably 6:30-ish or so, waiting for daylight to come to pack up and get ready to leave. And so anyway, we had a lot of activity, and that was the first time they had been overnight with us. And we woke up and, and that's when we went and figured out something opened the slam we heard was something opened the basement door. And we didn't know that because it was definitely closed when we went to bed. And this door was 10 feet from us. It was just between the kitchen and the what we call the dining room. And that's where they have a table set up with all kinds of power blocks to allow groups to come in and set up their equipment. Now, on that particular investigation, we have a couple of toys that are popular. One is the paranormal bell. And the bell creates an EMF. So, yeah, you guys have seen it. And one thing we find is you don't take those to the kids' floor because that's the newest toy. And they just keep ringing it and ringing it and ringing it. If you take it to the adult floor, they'll usually communicate with it. We had a lot of communication with that. We also had a tripwire, which is a long string of EMF detectors. Yes, we deployed it. We had the bear. We have a pack of cigarettes, and it has an EMF detector in it. So if they want to talk about having a smoke, it picks up. And we have a ton of toys, including the usual stuff, the cat balls, the millimeters, the K2s, the EMF meters, and so forth. But we also have IP cameras, which we used to have static cameras that were wired, and we had to run tons of wire and tape it down. We finally moved up the modern world. So we have IP protocol cameras, and we deployed those all over the building. And then it records back to an NVR DVR. And so some of the stuff I send you will be from there. Be some clips from it. But we heard many voices, many sounds. We had several open conversations with the K2 meter and with the bell. So it was really a productive night. It really, truly is. And we're hoping to run some new experiments. We got a couple ideas for equipment. I don't want to give them out on air, but we are going to be experimenting with those in the coming months to see if that'll work. We've got some ideas. We're working with the son of Sid, our electronics technician, and my IT manager, and we're trying to see if we can put something together that may be new that no one's ever tried before. So hopefully that'll work out.
That's
Now,
exciting. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So I got to tell you a couple more. The first one is Paracons. We were talking about that before the broadcast. We go to several Paracons. Matter of fact, the October 25th, I will be at the Crawfordsville Paracon. I'll be a guest speaker down there. Paracons are great, and there's nothing more bonding for your team than to cram the entire team in one vehicle and take off and drive about 7 hours, 8 hours. That's when you really get to know each other. We were going up to Sault Ste. Marie for the Michigan Paracon once, and my wife brings along this bag of shrimp chips. Now, these are chips, and I guess they've got real pieces of shrimp in them, but they're dehydrated. But they smell like the dock out in the middle of Norfolk Harbor. And she opens them up in the car in the back seat. And my driver, my chief of staff, Andrew, goes, "What the hell is that odor?" He says, "Jesus, is that sewer?" And
sewer.
She goes, "You want one of these?" He goes, No. So, and so, over the years, we have, matter of fact, the first place we went up there was an Airbnb we stayed at, or second place. And we got there in the middle of the night during a fog. I mean, it was a horrific fog. And we got there and the back porch light was off. And you had to go in the back porch light. We're unloading luggage. And it's just me and Andrew. And all of a sudden, and again, I'm not into cryptozoology, but I hear something extremely big and heavy out in the dark behind us going thump, thump. And I'm thinking, oh, shit. And this isn't even my field. I'm going to be killed by something we don't even research. And, I get this shit inside. And the next morning, once the fog lifted and the light, it turned out those were horses. They had 3 horses in a pasture.
Oh, my God. I would have been petrified.
I mean, it's just one of those things. But the more fun happens when you're out, and that's just part of it. And, of course, the interaction you get to have, we get to see people, tons of people we don't normally get to see. And I won't tell this individual's name, but he recently just had his TV show taken off. And he's teaching a class, and he's part of a duel. And one of the ladies, he kept coughing. One of the ladies in the audience, I was standing up with him. One of the ladies in the audience says, "Would you like a cough drop?" And he says, "Yes, please." And she hands him a cough drop. He puts it in his mouth. She walks off. I lean over in his ear, and I go, "No, officer, I don't know how the heroin got in my system." And he reaches over and sits down. He says, "Asshole." I go, "In the fire department, we don't eat what they send to the station because you never know what's in it." I go, "You don't know that, lady." And I said, "I'd be a little alarmed because the cough drop was in an unmarked label."
Ooh, yeah.
We're talking about it afterwards. He asked me why, and I told him the situation. But and the last thing I'll tell you about is I told you we were on a 24-hour hotline. Now, there's not always somebody on it, but it works through a system where if the first phone doesn't answer, it rings the next phone. It's basically Google Voice. So we maintain that for, anybody needs an emergency. So we've had some interesting calls come through. One night, and I was on a way to a shrine for Tilia. I was in a tuxedo, and the phone rings. The first rule is when the phone rings, you better have 45 minutes to dedicate. And I knew better, but I picked it up anyway. And I answer it, and the lady says, "Well, I believe I have ghosts." I said, "Okay." I said, "And what brings you to that belief?" She says, "Well, I saw them. I saw them when they were dropped off." I said, "I'm sorry, dropped off?" And she says, "Yeah, they were dropped off." And I said, "By whom?" She goes, "The UFO." I said, "Oh." I said, "Well, hey, let me give you MUFON's number. I said, because you probably should start with them since the UFO dropped them off. She goes, that's who gave me your number. I thought, those assholes. I'll get to see them at Crawfordsville. They're speaking down there too. But oh yeah, they gave her our number. So yeah, that was one of the best ones. I had another one. I had a guy call me and he says, I want to hunt Bigfoot. I said, okay. The problem is we don't do cryptozoology. I said, look, let me get you a hold of Mike down at the BFRO. I said, that's who you need to talk to. He says, well, okay. He says, do you know where I can get tags at? I said, tags. Tags for what? And it wasn't hitting home. Yeah, and he says, the tags to hunt Bigfoot. And I said, let me give you DNR's number. And I'm sure DNR probably doesn't have us on their Christmas card list because this son of a bitch probably called them next. But oh yeah, I got rid of him quick. But yeah, we occasionally, get that. That comes with the program. So and like I said, we have fun things happen. We have bloopers. The one thing I've got to tell you about Randolph was after we finished, we packed the cars and we were getting ready to leave. That's when I decided that I needed to go to the bathroom in the most urgent way. And I just realized the panic bar just shut on that damn door of the house and we didn't have a key. And so what I didn't know at the same time was when I was explaining this, that my research and social media manager had me live on Facebook.
Oh.
And I looked over and I go,
cool.
shit. I go, I'm on Facebook. And, and so we had to delete it. We got it off. I don't know how many people saw it, but it wasn't very many. We got it off within minutes. But, oh, yes. So they kept that because at Christmas, we have a Christmas party for the team and their spouses. And we play these bloopers. So they'll come up, that'll be a little video that'll run through for the fun of it so everybody can see that. So, but hopefully you've enjoyed some of the stories.
Absolutely.
I've got... If anybody goes to our website and goes to the calendar, you'll see all the places I'm lecturing, and we have a whole list of lecture workshops. The workshops are more for paracons. They're dealing with, things that more team related and continuing education related. The lectures are more general public. We talked about the one for Christmas with Christmas ghosts and other denizens. That's usually done a lot in December. We do one in March, which deals with Irish ghosts and legends, and everybody gets to see me in my kilt, and I do the presentation in full kilt and full dress, and we've got one that we're working on now for racetracks. We're gonna try to get that up, haunted racetracks and cursed cars. We're gonna try to get that up.
Nice for Indianapolis.
Yes, for the 500. So we're working toward that. When I say we're, that means me. I got to work that in between the book. But we've got a few more. We've got one for haunted objects, and we're talking a little bit about the haunted dolls and stones and items.
Yeah,
so that's going to come up. So we're adding some new lectures this year, but we've got some more this month, and I'll be at numerous libraries and I think one historical society. And I do lecture all year, but needless to say, October and December are probably the heaviest. So, and again, 25th of October, I'll be at the Crawfordsville Paracon. So,
well, there we are, man.
One more thing, good.
No, go for it.
Jason Halls is sponsoring, and I want to put this out. He's sponsoring a GoFundMe. They're trying to buy the Conjuring house, and I'm sure you guys have probably seen this. Yeah. And the original woman, it was going to go to auction, and someone bought the note. Nobody knows for sure what's going on with it, but apparently we've got a better chance at getting it, and the GoFundMe is back on. Before I got on here, they were over $100,000, and we're asking anybody, hey, if you donate $5, it helps. And what this is going to do is we can buy the Conjuring house. He's going to open it up to common people, common investigators like ourselves. And we're hoping to build some labs on the property and maybe be able to run some experiments to be able to forward the field of parapsychology. And, it'll be a lot easier and it won't cost you $1,000 to get into it. It'll be something that will be maintained by a group and committee, and we'll be able to do that. So if you want to donate, go just Google Jason Hall's GoFundMe. It'll come right up. And there's a link on our Facebook page, and anybody that wants to donate, I know they could really use it. Really could. So.
Wow, that is something else. To think about how cool that would be, like a, a paranormal research center based around this fucking ground zero of, wow. Yeah, I'll definitely put a link in the description for that as well.
Thank you.
I'm going to look into that myself. But thank you so much for all these stories, giving us a glimpse into the life of what it would be like to, be you, a paranormal investigator. I know Randy has some experience, but I do not. So, and, all the years in different situations, Especially you talking about that shadow person jumping out in front of you. I would have shit my pants right then and there.
Well, I tell you, I assuming he has taken that ringtone off, but I don't know that for a fact. But it was a little alarming because I'm not used to that. Some of the other members have had better experiences than I have.
Yeah.
Even over the years, it's rare. Now I do have, matter of fact, and it's kind of hard. I would send it to you guys to put on, but at Randolph, we caught a white figure that peeks out from the door, looks at us, and comes back. And it's fantastic, but it's hard to see unless you get it onto a laptop or something where you can get. If you get the bigger the screen, it kind of pixelates it out. And it's harder to see. But we've got some great evidence there. And if you guys are in the area, come down and see us. We can always arrange something. The Paranormal U we do between January and March, the master class. That'll be coming up, and we'll have some things open, and maybe you guys want to come down. Maybe one of these nights we could do an investigation with you guys and us together. Maybe
That'd be great.
So fun. Yeah, that'd be a good time.
That would be great. There's a lot of good people down here, and there's a lot of good spots. And like I said, hopefully I'll see you when we come over in Ohio in May.
Yes.
So, but no, we've had a fantastic time, and I will say the one thing I want to do for you. I assume we're getting close to wrapping up. I want to compliment my wife because all this stuff you've heard she puts up with. I promised her that next year we would go someplace that didn't involve ghosts as a vacation, which never happened. I get there, I look at somebody and go, "Hey, any haunted spots around here?" And
I
we
was
all
just going to say, yeah, is there such a thing?
I'm sure if you take her to haunted Hawaii, she's not going to have a problem with it.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Now, actually, Pele there. Oh, there's some good ones there. Yeah. That's the thing. I told her. I said, we'll see what we can do, and we kind of laugh, but everywhere we go, we usually end up running into something. And my cruise, matter of fact, there was real quickly. We went to a guided tour in South Carolina, and the company. The guy had a shirt on. The front of it had the company name. On the back, it says, "If you see me running, it's not part of the tour. Try to keep up." $50 trying to buy that off his back. I said, "Look, dude, my shirt cost $20, $30 at least." I said, "I'll give you my shirt and I'll give you $50 for the one you're wearing." And he wouldn't do it. He says, "No, you're gonna be fired." The company's real funny about that because I wanted one of those shirts. And then we got back, the lady was there representing the company, said, "No, we can't sell those." So my chief of staff's daughter, Caroline, made me a glass with that logo. She laser etched it into a column.
Nice.
Yeah, because I like that so well. But we do. Most everybody I have goes when they're on vacation, they're going to hit a haunted spot. But I told her I would try to find something less haunted,
Yeah. Take her to Key West. I think you'll get in trouble, though, if you do that.
Oh, yes. There we would.
Yeah. But thank you so much for the invitation. So, we'll probably be seeing you in May, if not sooner. We're definitely going to have to make it over because, you're talking about a paranormal investigation team in a basement full of booze. You're speaking our language, Chris, or Chief, rather. I'm sorry. But want to thank you so much for taking time to be here, and happy Halloween to you, sir.
Thank you, and happy Halloween to you.
All right, everyone. And once again, that was Chris Chief Lawson of Spirit Paranormal. Thank you so much to him for stopping by. Again, so interesting how they go about. I guess everybody kind of does it the same, but I just love their approach on it. Again, everybody on the team having their own reason. And didn't even say they had like a pastor, a chaplain, or someone that they can reach out to, like that's part of their team. That's incredible. That's the first time I've heard that in the years doing this where we've talked to like paranormal investigators. So, and sending us the EVPs and the video clips, it just pulls you in so much more, right?
Well, yeah, and they're the first team I've heard of that has like an 800 hotline, like a 24-hour hotline, or maybe they stopped doing that, but having it at one time, yeah, that's
I think
insane.
They might still have it. When I was on their website, I'm almost positive I saw it on there. So
okay.
Maybe we could have that number flashing on the screen here. Like if you have a paranormal situation that you're dealing with, or just need help with something unexplained happening at home, call the number on the screen or in the description. I haven't decided if it's going to go on the screen yet. Maybe we need to test that. I don't know. Could I just call the number, I guess?
I guess, yeah.
Just wanted to see if this was still working. All right, bye.
He's here to help you. Wait,
He's here to believe you.
that's it. Damn.
But anyway, with that, once again, big thanks to not only Chris, but Chelsea, Beth, and Lesla from part 1 of our Halloween episode. Thanks to everyone for stopping by this year to tell their stories. And with all that being said, Jack, why don't you tell these people what they can find on our website?
Go to cannedairpodcast.com where you can see our latest episode, check out our older episodes, buy some merch, become a patron, check out our special guest page, and if you'd like to be a guest or promote your work, or if you have a paranormal occurrence you'd like to talk about, shoot us an email on our contacts page.
There it is. And that's a good, we should just be doing, I think we maybe said this last year, but this is just something we should be doing all year long. Everyone we talk to got a story, got a story. And then by the time Halloween rolls around again, we're good. We don't have to go,
It'll be like an 8-parter.
Yeah.
Well, no, we'll just have, we can use them all eventually, I'm sure. Just, we might get enough so we can fill 2 years worth of episodes. Who knows?
There you go.
Probably not, but
We just do a bunch of episodes 1 year, and then we wouldn't have to do a Halloween episode for the next couple of years because we'd have them all in the box.
I like the way you think. I got to be honest. I do. Don't forget to find us on our socials listed above and at the website like Jack was just talking about. You can find a few different things there. You can find merchandise, t-shirts, mugs, hats, hoodies. Is all that back up, Jack? I know there's a few things up there. What's missing? What's available?
There's hoodies aren't yet.
Okay. Coming
There's a lot
soon?
of different types of merchandise to choose from, so it's kind of I'm trying to decide what, like, this kind of hoodie or this kind of hoodie. And a lot of different types of t-shirts and stuff. I don't want to oversaturate it with.
Better to
Jack
have
is
too
trying to-
much than not enough.
Well, yeah.
So just throw it on it, both of them. Put them up.
Okay.
And also, you can get access to our Patreon page. Though you don't have to go through the website. You can also just go to patreon.com and search Canned Air Podcast. But $5 a month gets you access to a catalog that's damn near, if not over 5 years old. Hours of content, in my opinion, the best content. That's one of my favorite things to do with this whole thing is our Patreon pod. We let our hair down over there. We always call it the blackmail pod. We always call it the shit no one will ever hear without paying us first pod. So, yeah, check that out. Again, $5 a month. Don't think you can go wrong. And that one last thing we always mention, Randy.
Yeah, so huge shout out to evergreenpodcast.com, the network we are so proud to be a part of. And if you are listening and you aren't able to kick anything our Patreon way, just listening, liking, sharing it with your friends, even going back and listening to some of our past Halloween episodes. I mean, we've got so many good ones interviewing Halloween-based celebrities, other ghost stories. I mean, we got enough to fill out your Halloween. So check us out,
no
and
doubt.
leave us a like and subscribe. It definitely helps.
Yeah, I was a big fan of all of last year's episodes, especially the Bobby Mackey's one, which I think was part 3 of last year's Halloween contributions, and it was horrifying. I'm kind of glad that place is tore the fuck down now because I sleep easier knowing it doesn't exist, But yeah, so check those out. I'll have links right at the end of the episode. You can click and go right over to those episodes. But I think that's going to do it for this year's Halloween episodes. So I want to thank everyone for watching. All of us here at Canned Air wish you all a very happy and spooky Halloween. And until next time, thank you so much for watching.
All right, listeners, I hope you enjoyed that. I really do. I wanted to make a couple announcements. We are still having trouble with the video for some of the video uploads we've had. We will announce on Facebook when those go live. Again, if you haven't followed us on Facebook, please do. It's Spirit Indiana 1. If you want to get to the YouTube videos, it's G, the number 2, G, Indiana. That will get you to our directory of YouTube videos. So go to YouTube, type in the search bar G, 2G Indiana, all one word, and that should bring you up with all of those. There may be a few that are still not on there, but we are getting them on there at this time. So, again, listeners, remember there is no ghost story of the day at the end of this broadcast, but we will be back November 30th, and we will have another interesting episode for you. So, have a good night. Thanks for listening to Ghost. Again, I'm your host, Chief Lawson. You can find Ghost to Ghost on all major formats on the 15th and 30th of the month at midnight. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, maybe have a question or subject you'd like to ask about on air or be used on the show, please email us at ghosttoghost@spiritindiana.com, ghosttoghost@spiritindiana.com. I want to thank my production staff on Spirit, Jennifer Verne, our research manager and our producer, and Heather Lawson, our trainer on Spirit and our podcast director, for helping make these podcasts possible. My chief of staff, Andrew Brooks, for his guidance and help on the scripts, and everyone else involved. Thank you so much. See you next time. Until then, stay safe and remember the truth is out there. Good night. Ghost to Ghost podcast and its contents is the property of Spirit Paranormal Ltd., all rights reserved. We welcome you to download and play the podcast and share with others for personal use. You may not, except with written permission, use or distribute its contents for commercial use. Spirit Indiana Paranormal, covering the Hoosier State since 2002, Indy's oldest parapsychology investigation group. If you're experiencing what you believe to be paranormal issues, reach out to us for help at www.spiritindiana.com or call our hotline at 317-883-9103. Again, that is www.spiritindiana.com or our hotline at 317-883-9103. Thank you for listening. Take care of yourself and the ones you love, and be safe out there.